Ronaldo had witnessed countless performances, from the grand stages of New York to the intimate halls of Washington. Yet, none had ever stopped him in his tracks quite like this one, a lone street performer, draped in tattered clothing, dancing and playing a violin with such raw passion that it struck a chord deep within his soul. It was a brisk autumn afternoon in Manhattan, the kind of day where the city seemed to hum with an unspoken energy. Barron, now a tall and composed young man, had decided to break away from his usual routines and immerse himself in the crowded streets. Wearing nothing but a simple hoodie and jeans, he looked like any ordinary teenager wandering the city. But his sharp, familiar features occasionally drew curious glances from passers-by. As he strolled past street vendors and towering storefronts, a hauntingly beautiful melody floated toward him. It wasn't the polished precision of a concert violinist. It was something far more heartfelt, almost human. Barron followed the sound until he found its source, a man in his late 40s, playing a battered violin at a bustling street corner. His long, graying hair and face, etched with lines of countless struggles, told their own story. But his eyes shone with a quiet determination. Barron paused, utterly captivated. The music seemed to speak of longing, hope, and dreams deferred, but never forgotten. It was as though every note carried a fragment of a life lived in defiance of hardship. Around him, a small crowd had gathered. Some tossed coins into the open violin case, others simply stood in silent appreciation. For a moment, Barron hesitated. He'd always been taught to view the world with curiosity and compassion, but this felt different. This felt personal. Taking a deep breath, he stepped closer, positioning himself on the edge of the small circle. As the performer's melody reached a powerful crescendo, Barron clapped. The sound broke through the murmurs of the crowd like a beacon of genuine admiration. The performer glanced up, startled, and their eyes met. Barron smiled, and the man's tense expression softened into cautious gratitude. Encouraged, Barron reached into his pocket, pulling out a crisp $100 bill. Leaning down, he placed it gently into the violin case, earning surprised looks from those nearby. "Thank you," the man said, his voice hoarse but sincere. "You didn't have to do that." Barron shrugged, a boyish grin spreading across his face. "Your music deserves it. It's incredible." The man's lips curved into a faint, uncertain smile. "It's just an old song. Nothing special." "I don't believe that for a second," Barron replied, his tone kind but firm. "You've got talent. Real talent." The performer's eyes flickered with a mix of pride and self-doubt, as though wrestling with years of rejection and hardship. "Name's Leo," he said, finally extending a calloused hand. "Leo Moretti?" Barron asked, shaking the man's hand firmly. He considered sharing his full name but decided against it. He wanted this moment to stay pure, free from any preconceived judgments. For the next hour, Barron stood rooted to the spot, listening as Leo played piece after piece, each one more moving than the last. Between songs, they talked. Leo shared pieces of his story, how he once dreamed of becoming a professional musician, only to see those dreams shattered by a series of personal tragedies. Yet, despite everything, he'd clung to his music, pouring his heart into every note. Leo poured his soul into every note, a form of solace and expression that transcended words. Barron listened intently, his heart aching for the man's struggles, yet swelling with admiration for his resilience. He didn't ask questions out of politeness. His curiosity was genuine, and with each answer his respect for Leo's spirit deepened. As the afternoon light began to wane, casting golden hues over the city, Barron's mind raced with possibilities. This encounter didn't feel like a coincidence. Something about Leo's story, his unwavering dedication to his craft, struck a profound chord within him. What if, Barron hesitated, searching for the right words. What if you had the chance to play on a bigger stage? To share your music with more people? Leo chuckled softly, a hint of bitterness lacing his voice. Kid, I've had my share of chances. They don't usually end well. But what if this time was different? Baron pressed, his blue eyes alight with determination. What if someone believed in you? Leo studied the young man closely, as though trying to decide if he was naive, idealistic, or sincerely serious. And who's that someone? You. Maybe, Baron said, his tone unwavering. Why not? You've got the talent. All you need is the right opportunity. Leo shook his head, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his lips. You've got a good heart, kid, but life doesn't work that way. Baron crossed his arms, his expression resolute. Sometimes it does. Before Leo could respond, a passerby interrupted, dropping a few coins into the violin case with a quick, beautiful music, before hurrying away. The moment passed, but Baron's resolve only grew stronger. He knew there was more to be done, something he could do. As they parted ways that evening, Baron made a silent promise to himself. He didn't know how, but he was determined to help Leo realize his potential. This wasn't just about music. It was about hope, about proving that dreams could still come true, even in the face of adversity. Walking back to his apartment, Baron's mind buzzed with ideas. He thought about his family's resources, the connections he could use, and the possibilities ahead. But above all, he thought about Leo's music, the raw, unfiltered emotion that had silenced even the bustling city street. The following day, Baron sat at his desk, a notepad in front of him and a pen poised in his hand. He began sketching out a plan, detailing everything, from finding a venue to organizing a professional recording session for Leo. With every word he wrote, his excitement grew. This wasn't a passing whim. It was a mission. Over the next week, Baron threw himself into the project with an energy that even surprised him. He reached out to friends and acquaintances, being careful never to mention his last name. This had to be about Leo's talent, not his family's influence. Slowly but surely, the pieces began to come together. He found a small but reputable music studio willing to donate their space for a day, intrigued by the story of a talented street performer deserving of a chance. He connected with a local concert organizer who agreed to include Leo in an upcoming showcase for emerging artists. He even brainstormed ways to promote the event, from social media campaigns to grassroots word-of-mouth efforts. Throughout it all, Baron continued to visit Leo, listening to his music and sharing updates on the progress. At first, Leo remained skeptical, brushing off Baron's efforts as the idealistic enthusiasm of a well-meaning kid. But as the weeks went by and Baron's dedication didn't falter, Leo began to reconsider. Maybe, just maybe, there was something to this kid's optimism, something he hadn't dared to believe in for years. One crisp November morning, Baron approached Leo's usual corner with a determined look in his eyes. "I've got something to show you," he said, holding up a flyer for the upcoming showcase. In bold letters, it featured Leo's name alongside a photo of him playing the violin. Leo stared at the flyer, his expression unreadable. You did all this?" "Yeah," Baron replied, his voice brimming with excitement. "And it's just the beginning." For the first time, Leo's guarded demeanor cracked, revealing a flicker of hope. "You really believe in this, don't you?" Baron smiled. "I believe in you." Leo nodded slowly, the weight of the moment settling over him. "All right, kid. Let's see where this takes us." And with that, the first chapter of their journey began. There would still be countless challenges ahead, but for the first time in a long while, both Baron and Leo felt a renewed sense of purpose. Leo felt something spark within, a faint glimmer of possibility he hadn't dared to embrace in years. As the showcase date inched closer, the momentum behind Barron's plan only grew stronger. His evenings were spent poring over every detail, from perfecting the lighting setup to ensuring the venue's acoustics were just right. Each task felt like another step toward something truly extraordinary. Even when the weight of responsibility bore down on him, Barron never faltered. He saw in Leo's music a rare beauty that deserved to be shared with the world, and he was determined to make it happen. Meanwhile, Leo found himself cautiously caught up in Barron's enthusiasm. Every rehearsal revealed a new side of the young man, a focused, driven individual who tackled every challenge with a sincerity that was impossible to ignore. For someone like Leo, who had long stopped trusting the kindness of strangers, this warmth was unfamiliar but deeply moving. Slowly, he began to allow himself to hope again. One evening, after an intense rehearsal, Barron leaned back in his chair, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "You know," he began, "this isn't just about one performance. Sure, it starts with the showcase, but you could go so much farther than that." Leo, perched on the edge of a worn stool, raised an eyebrow. "Farther? Like what, kid? A world tour? Why not?" Barron shot back, only half joking. "You've got the talent. Once people hear you play, they're going to want more." Leo snorted, though there was no real malice in it. "I'm a street performer, Barron, not some concert hall virtuoso." Barron leaned forward, his tone steady. "You're better. You play with heart. People connect with that way more than technical perfection. It's real." For a moment, Leo said nothing. He had spent years burying dreams that seemed unreachable, but something about Barron's conviction, so genuine, so unshakable, made him wonder if maybe, just maybe, it wasn't foolish to believe. "I guess we'll see," Leo said softly, his voice tinged with a cautious hope. "One step at a time." When the night of the showcase arrived, the air carried a chill, and an electric excitement ran through both Barron and Leo. The venue wasn't grand, but it was welcoming. Its stage, framed by warm lights, cast a golden glow over the modest audience. As the crowd filtered in, Barron felt a surge of pride. It wasn't a packed concert hall, but it was a start. These people hadn't come for free snacks or casual entertainment. They had come for Leo. Backstage, Leo paced nervously, gripping his violin tightly. It had been years since he'd performed for an audience like this, and the weight of the moment threatened to overwhelm him. But then Barron appeared, calm and steady as ever. "You're going to be amazing," Barron said firmly. "Just play like you always do. They'll feel it. Trust me." Leo nodded, swallowing hard. It wasn't much, but it was enough to steady him. The lights dimmed, the audience hushed, and the MC introduced Leo. As he stepped onto the stage, a round of polite applause greeted him. Standing under the spotlight, Leo took a deep breath and began to play. At first, his movements were hesitant, the notes shaky. But as the music poured out, Leo lost himself in it. The violin's rich tones filled the room, silencing every murmur and stilling every shifting chair. The audience leaned in, captivated, hearing the struggle, the resilience, the hope, all the emotions Leo had poured into his music over the years. When he finished his first piece, the applause was thunderous. Barron, standing at the back of the room, felt his chest swell with pride. This was it, the moment he had worked so hard for. And judging by the look on Leo's face as he stepped off stage, the musician felt it too. For the first time in years, Leo didn't see himself as just a man scraping by on the streets. He saw himself as an artist. After the performance, audience members surrounded Leo, showering him with heartfelt compliments and encouragement. A local music critic approached Leo, introducing herself and asking if she could write a feature about him. A producer even mentioned interest in recording some tracks. Though Leo seemed overwhelmed by the sudden attention, Baron was right there, supporting him at every step, guiding him through these unfamiliar opportunities. As the weeks went by, Leo's name began to circulate within the city's indie music scene. His story, a street performer discovered and championed by a determined young man, resonated deeply with people. Invitations trickled in, small gigs at cozy cafes, a guest spot at a neighborhood festival, and even a request to perform at a community center benefit concert. But it wasn't just the public recognition that mattered. The real transformation was in Leo himself. He carried himself differently now, with a quiet confidence that had been buried under years of disappointments. He practiced with fresh determination, experimenting with arrangements and even composing original pieces. What had once been a lifeline for him was now a source of pure joy and inspiration. For Baron, watching Leo's transformation was the ultimate reward. He wasn't naive about the challenges ahead. He knew setbacks, struggles, and moments of doubt were inevitable, but he also believed that Leo had what it took to rise above them. Sometimes all it took was someone to believe, and Baron was more than willing to be that someone. As the months passed, the bond between the two deepened. What had begun as a chance meeting on a bustling Manhattan street corner had turned into something much more profound. They weren't just a performer and his supporter anymore. They were friends, united by a shared belief in the power of music and the resilience of the human spirit. But their story was far from over. The world was still out there, waiting to be conquered, one note at a time. Leo's journey was only just beginning, and Baron was determined to see it through, no matter how long it took. As the weeks turned into months, Leo's momentum grew. Each performance opened new doors, and every opportunity reinforced the undeniable connection between his music and the people who heard it. Baron, ever the meticulous planner, ensured that every gig, recording session, and interview went off without a hitch. Balancing his own responsibilities while keeping an eye on Leo's budding career wasn't easy, but Baron's unwavering conviction made every bit of effort feel worthwhile. One crisp morning, Leo walked into the modest studio where he had begun recording his first professional tracks. The producer, Mark, a grizzled veteran of the music industry, had initially been skeptical about working with a street performer. But after hearing Leo's raw, unfiltered talent, he quickly became one of his biggest supporters. Together, they spent long hours refining each piece. Leo poured his soul into every note, while Mark guided him toward a sound that was polished yet still authentic. The sessions were exhausting but incredibly rewarding. With each recording, Leo's music began to evolve, taking on new dimensions as he experimented with different styles and techniques. Some pieces showcased the haunting, pure sound of Leo's solo violin, while others included subtle accompaniments, a soft piano melody here, a gentle string quartet there. Baron would often sit quietly in the corner of the studio, listening intently. He'd offer encouraging words or occasionally suggest minor changes. "Try slowing the tempo on that bridge," he'd say thoughtfully. "It might give the melody more room to breathe." Leo would nod, adjust his playing, and within minutes, they'd have something even more stunning than before. It was a true collaboration, where each small success felt like another step towards something extraordinary. Beyond the studio walls, Baron worked tirelessly to get Leo's music noticed. He managed social media accounts, organized photo shoots, and crafted compelling narratives about Leo's journey. From the street corner to the studio became the tagline, resonating deeply with everyone who came across it. People were captivated by the story, a man whose music spoke of struggle and hope, and a young supporter who had believed in him when no one else would. The buzz grew stronger with each passing day. One evening, Baron received an email from a local arts foundation. They were interested in featuring Leo as a keynote performer at their annual gala. The event was prestigious, drawing influential figures from the music and arts world. It was an opportunity they couldn't pass up, but it came with immense pressure. The stakes were higher than ever, and Leo felt the weight of it. On the evening of the gala, the venue sparkled with elegance. The stage was grander than any Leo had played on before, framed by luxurious drapes and illuminated with intricate lighting. The audience, dressed in tuxedos and evening gowns, buzzed with quiet anticipation. Baron sat in the front row, his heart pounding with a mix of excitement and nerves. When Leo stepped onto the stage, the room went silent. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and began to play. The first notes floated in the air, delicate and fragile, like a thread of silk. As he continued, the music grew richer, more intricate, weaving a tapestry of sound that held everyone spellbound. The audience leaned forward in their seats, their faces reflecting awe and wonder. By the time Leo finished his set, the applause was thunderous. The crowd rose to their feet, clapping and cheering with an energy that left Leo momentarily speechless. He bowed, his chest rising and falling with emotion. As he scanned the sea of smiling faces, a feeling he hadn't dared to embrace in years washed over him. Validation. Backstage, Baron met him with a grin that stretched wide. "You crushed it," he exclaimed, clapping Leo on the back. "They absolutely loved you." Leo nodded, his eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "It doesn't feel real. Like I'm finally doing what I was always meant to do." "That's because you are," Baron said firmly. "And it's only the beginning, Leo. You're going nowhere but up from here." The gala performance became a turning point. News of Leo's talent spread like wildfire, and before long, his schedule was packed with invitations to perform at events and venues. From cozy jazz clubs to grand concert halls, even a televised charity benefit, each stage brought new fans. And with every new admirer, Leo's sense of purpose grew stronger. But the transformation wasn't just about the external recognition. On a personal level, Leo was changing profoundly. He became more open, more willing to share his journey. He spoke with raw honesty about his struggles, the years he'd spent surviving on the streets, and the young man who had believed in him when he couldn't believe in himself. His authenticity resonated deeply, making his music even more moving and impactful. Baron, as always, remained a steady force in Leo's life. He handled the behind-the-scenes chaos, organizing travel, coordinating gigs, and ensuring Leo had everything he needed to thrive. But beyond logistics, Baron was a constant wellspring of positivity. Whenever doubt crept in, Baron reminded Leo of how far he'd come, and how much further he could go. One crisp autumn afternoon, after a particularly successful show, the two found themselves sitting on a bench outside the venue, savoring the cool air. They were both exhausted yet exhilarated. "Do you ever think about how it all began?" Baron asked, his gaze fixed on the sky. "Every single day," Leo replied. "I still can't believe you stopped to listen to me that afternoon. If you hadn't—" Baron cut him off with a shake of his head. "You'd still be amazing. All I did was help the world see it." Leo smiled softly, shaking his head. "No, you helped me see it. And that's what changed everything." They sat in a comfortable silence, each lost in thought. The journey had been anything but easy, filled with challenges, sleepless nights, and moments of doubt. But as they reflected on how far they'd come, it was clear that every hardship had been worth it. Though they both knew the path ahead would come with its share of highs and lows, they also understood they were stronger for having faced it side by side. As the sun dipped below the horizon, streaking the sky with hues of gold and crimson, Baron glanced at Leo. "So, what's next?" he asked, his eyes gleaming with excitement. Leo chuckled softly. "Honestly, I have no clue. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's that the best journeys are often the ones you can't map out." Baron nodded, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Well, whatever comes our way, we'll tackle it together." The months that followed became a whirlwind, filled with rehearsals, interviews, and countless performances. What had started as Baron's dream of giving Leo the recognition he deserved had evolved into an explosion of opportunities neither of them could have fully imagined. Every time Leo stepped onto a stage, his music didn't just reach people. It moved them. Audiences didn't just hear the melodies. They felt them, connecting on an emotional level that left them profoundly affected. Leo's compositions grew bolder, his confidence more unshakable. He started weaving his personal stories into the introductions of his pieces, inviting listeners deeper into his world. These stories, unpolished yet honest, revealed the challenges he'd endured and the quiet strength that had kept him going. He wasn't just a violinist to his audiences anymore. He was a storyteller, sharing his journey through his art. Baron, as always, worked diligently in the background. He juggled logistics, coordinated packed schedules, and ensured no detail was overlooked. His quiet determination and unwavering support had become the cornerstone of Leo's burgeoning success. Yet, he wasn't merely a manager. Baron was a confidant, a friend, and the steady anchor Leo leaned on when the pressures of a rapidly growing career began to feel like too much. One evening, after a particularly electrifying performance at a renowned venue, Baron and backstage, Leo sat in a rare moment of stillness. The echo of applause from the audience still lingered, and the adrenaline that had surged through him was gradually being replaced by a deep exhaustion. "You've come a long way from that street corner," Baron said, a tired but genuine smile spreading across his face. "You should be proud of yourself." "I am," Leo admitted, his voice carrying a note of heartfelt gratitude. "But I also know I couldn't have done it without you. You were the one who believed in me when I couldn't even see it myself." Baron shook his head gently. "Leo, you've always been incredible. All I did was help you see what was already there." For a while, they sat in a comfortable silence, the weight of their shared journey settling between them. It wasn't just about the performances or the recognition. It was about the bond they had formed, the trust that had deepened, and the mutual respect that had grown stronger with every challenge they had faced together. As the weeks turned into months, the complexities of success began to mount. Leo found himself navigating larger venues, intricate production demands, and a steadily expanding team of professionals who were as invested in his talent as he was. The intimate shows that had once defined his artistry now had to share space with grand productions and diverse, larger audiences. The transformation was thrilling, but also overwhelming. Yet, even as the stakes climbed higher, Leo stayed grounded in the essence of his music. He continued to channel his personal story into every melody, weaving his past into the fabric of his performances. And though the stages grew bigger and the crowds more varied, the raw emotion and honesty in his music never wavered. One evening, after a grueling rehearsal, Leo approached Baron. "I'm thinking about taking a break," he confessed, his tone calm but resolute. "Not for too long, just enough to step back and make sure I'm still doing this for the right reasons." Baron studied him for a moment before nodding thoughtfully. "If that's what you need, we'll make it happen. But just so you know, your fans? They're not going anywhere. They'll be here when you're ready." Leo smiled faintly, his eyes soft with appreciation. "It's not about them leaving. It's about making sure I'm still here, still connected to the music, and to why I started this journey in the first place." With mutual understanding, they agreed to hit pause on the relentless schedule, allowing Leo the space he needed to refocus and reconnect. In the weeks that followed, Leo stepped away from the limelight, retreating to a secluded, tranquil cabin in the countryside. The only sounds surrounding him were the gentle rustling of leaves and the occasional birdsong. Here, he found joy once more in playing just for himself. He composed fresh pieces, explored new techniques, and let his creativity flow freely, unrestrained by the expectations of an audience. During this period, Beren remained in contact. He offered words of encouragement and managed any urgent matters that came up. He understood that this wasn't a setback. It was a vital moment for Leo to recharge, regain focus, and return stronger than ever. When Leo finally stepped back onto the stage, it was with a revitalized sense of purpose. The time away had worked wonders for his artistry, and the music he shared now carried even greater depth, emotion, and impact. Audiences could feel the transformation, responding with enthusiasm that surpassed anything he'd experienced before. As the years rolled on, Leo's career soared to unimaginable heights. His albums climbed the charts, his tours sold out, and his name became synonymous with raw, heartfelt storytelling through music. Beren remained a constant by his side, quietly steering the ship, celebrating every victory, and navigating every challenge with care and dedication. But for both Leo and Beren, the true essence of their journey wasn't in the awards, accolades, or even the thunderous standing ovations. What mattered most was the path they had walked together. They had started as strangers, a street performer with a dream and a young man with a vision. Over time, they became a team, their partnership built on trust, mutual respect, and an unshakable belief in the transformative power of music. Looking back, they realized that their real success lay not in fame or fortune, but in the connections they had forged, the lives they had touched, and the happiness they had brought to others. As they moved forward, they carried with them the certainty that, no matter where the road led, they would always have each other to lean on. In the end, it wasn't just about the music. It was about friendship, resilience, and the extraordinary power of believing in someone. Through their journey, Leo and Beren had changed not only their own lives, but had shown the world what could be achieved when hope, talent, and determination came together.